China launched the first module of its new space station, Tiangong, in April of 2021, and while much of the world has barely noticed this orbiting outpost, or the fact that it's now been occupied for more than a year, Beijing views the Tianai as a major achievement and a source of national pride. After all, it is the only country in the world, besides Russia, to have built a space station and operated it independently, without assistance from the US. So why have we all underestimated just how big a deal this really is? It's me, and you're watching this report. It's no secret that Western media outlets don't exactly go out of their way to give China positive press. But the bias against Beijing goes beyond what you might expect. For example, last month, when Chinese takonauts performed the nation's first extravehicular activity, or EVA, on the Tianjin, not one major English-language news outlet carried a single story about the event. To be fair, NASA did livestream the entire 7-hour spacewalk, and people in nearly every corner of the globe were able to tune in and watch history being made. But unless you were actively seeking out news about China's space program, chances are you've never even heard about it. And that's too bad, because this particular EVA was actually a pretty big deal. You see, the main reason for performing EVAs is to maintain and upgrade the health and functionality of a space station. That could mean anything from replacing old equipment to upgrading computer systems to making repairs after micrometeor impacts. But with the Tianai, this was the very first time that the crew had ventured outside to do any work on the station. That means the only stories about it were coming directly from state-run Xinhua news agency, which obviously isn't reliable. What if they were lying about the whole thing? Well, turns out they weren't. Thanks to the live stream, we were able to see for ourselves that the Chinese have developed some pretty impressive technology for working outside their space station. For example, the Tianai doesn't have a Canadarm like the ISS, at least not yet. Instead, China has developed an external robotic arm called the Tianai Core Mechanical Arm, which is shorter but just as capable as its Canadian counterpart, with 7 degrees of freedom and the ability to operate both manually and autonomously. The Tianai Core Mechanical Arm was instrumental in helping the takonauts complete their mission. During the spacewalk, it kept the hatchway open, assisted with repositioning, and even took over to allow the astronauts to rest, while it finished up the final approach. Now, the mechanical arm is just one piece of a much larger puzzle, and if we take a step back, there's a lot more going on here that the West just isn't reporting. First of all, the Tianai is the second space station currently in operation on Earth. It joins the ISS, which is more than 30 years old at this point, and beginning to show its age. In fact, the ISS has already exceeded its planned lifespan by nearly a decade, and as far as we know, it will be the last habitable structure still operating in low Earth orbit when the Tianai is finally decommissioned. On top of that, the Chinese space station is conducting some seriously ambitious science experiments. For example, recently, the crew of the Shenzhou 14 spacecraft docked with the Tianai and brought along a mysterious black box that nobody seems to know much about. All we know so far is that it contains experiments related to the life sciences, biotechnology, and variable gravity research, and that's it. Not exactly hard-hitting news, I know. But imagine for a moment, if a secretive black box showed up on the ISS carrying mysterious experiments. Wouldn't that be front-page news around the world? Well, apparently not. But here's where things get interesting. Up until now, the ISS has been flying on borrowed time. Back in 2018, NASA certified the station to continue operations through 2024. But the following year, Russia decided that they wouldn't be participating in the ISS past 2025, citing the US sanctions placed on them after they annexed Crimea as the reason for their departure. But the Russian Space Agency also went ahead and destroyed a competing space station named the Mir just before the ISS came online. So maybe they just didn't want anyone else to have their own space station. In any case, after the Russians pulled out, NASA Administrator Bridenstine warned that without Russian cooperation, the ISS would probably only last another 5 years. Now, remember, the ISS was originally designed to last only 15 years. So we're talking about a station that's 20 years old right now, still limping along in low Earth orbit, but with a lifespan comparable to the average dog. On the other hand, the Tianai is already working towards a lifespan of 10 years, and if we're being honest, it was designed to last 20. According to reports, the first module was built to withstand 15 years in space. However, engineers added additional protection to the Tianhai's core command module to extend its lifespan to 20 years. Then the Mention and Wenxian experiment modules are each rated for 10 years of operation. Now, with the retirement of the ISS looming on the horizon, it makes sense that nations like Japan, India, Brazil, Italy, Switzerland, Canada, and others would want to get in on this action. They've all officially signed on to collaborate with China on the Tiangong, and there's a good reason for that. Despite the best efforts of NASA and the US government to block China from joining the ISS, Chinese takonauts have proven themselves to be a valuable addition to any space program. They speak fluent English, they're excellent problem solvers, and they work well with others. In fact, the only major issue that ever arose between the Chinese and the Americans on the ISS was when NASA forced the Chinese to eat American food. That caused some tension that eventually blew over, when it was discovered that soy sauce and hot sauce are essentially the same thing. So once the ISS is decommissioned, China will effectively become the sole operator of low Earth orbit, and everyone else will have to beg the CCP for permission to use the Tiangong. There are some potential roadblocks though. For example, Elon Musk has threatened to launch his own Starlink satellite mega-constellation into low Earth orbit and block China's access to the ISS. But Elon also likes to say that the moon is his colony in waiting. So we don't know how seriously he's taking any of these threats. What we do know is that the Tiangong is a marvel of engineering that is capable of hosting a variety of important scientific research and experiments. For example, the unique spherical shape of the core command module is designed to maximize the amount of energy it can collect from the sun, which is obviously a huge deal when you're living in space and have no other power source. The Tiangong is equipped with a total of 22 experimental racks, 16 in the main and 6 in the Wendian, with plans to add even more capabilities to the station in the near future. The space station also has some nifty features designed to make life more comfortable for the 6 takonauts who can live and work inside the station. For example, according to the chief designer of the Tiangong, the station's Mention module includes a special airlock system that allows astronauts to keep their spacesuits pressurized during extravehicular activities. This innovation allows astronauts to move freely outside the station without needing to carry around cumbersome oxygen tanks. Making life easier for the astronauts is kind of important because the Tiangong is massive, weighing in at 100 tons and measuring 55 meters long. It took 4 separate launches to put everything together, and although it looks pretty small compared to the ISS, it's actually nearly the same size. The main difference is that the Tiangong is much more streamlined, and despite its relatively small size, the Tiangong is actually modular, consisting of 3 main parts: the core command module, the Mention experiment module, and the Wenxian experiment module. This modular design allows for future expansion of the station and the capability to upgrade existing modules with relative ease. Each module is equipped with everything necessary for the takonauts to survive, including life support, communications and navigation systems, as well as solar panels and propulsion systems. Speaking of survival, let's talk about what it's actually like to live and work on the Tiangong. Just like the ISS, the Tiangong is stocked with a variety of space foods to keep the takonauts nourished and healthy. According to the chief designer, the station has a total of 120 different types of space food to choose from, and that includes everything from traditional Chinese dishes like Kung Pao chicken to classic Western fare like pasta. Of course, it wouldn't be a space station without some truly disgusting-looking food, and the Tiangong has plenty of that too. Like this fish and egg casserole that looks like something you might find growing out of a swamp in Louisiana. To ensure the astronauts stay healthy while living off freeze-dried space food, the Tiangong is equipped with a treadmill, stationary bike, and weightlifting equipment. And just like the ISS, the takonauts are required to exercise for at least 2 hours every day. That helps mitigate the negative effects of microgravity on the body and ensures that they stay strong and healthy throughout their mission. And there you have it. Those are the biggest takeaways from our recent tours of China's Tiangong. Now you're welcome. Now go tell everyone you know how awesome China's new space station is. And don't forget to subscribe for more unfiltered news.